talking about popular Bible stories and stuff like that. I miss you all. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy and loving your family. Today we're going to be talking about Jonah and the story of the whale. Before we jump into anything, if you have any questions about anything I talk about today, you can go ahead and comment below, or if you feel uncomfortable doing that, you can message me on the website. Let's get started. Okay, so Jonah and the whale. So Jonah was a follower of God during this time, and God told him that he needed to go to the city called Nineveh. And Nineveh was in a country called Assyria, and Assyria was enemies with Israel. And so that was kind of problematic for Jonah because he didn't want to go over there because he didn't believe their way of life and he didn't agree with anything they were doing. And so he decided to disobey God, and he went to the ship port and went on a boat that was headed south towards Tarshish. And so he gets on this boat with tons of other sailors, and they go out to sea. And whenever they get out to sea, God causes this big storm, and it tosses the boat all around, and the sailors are obviously freaking out. And so they are praying to their own gods. They don't believe in the same God, but they're doing everything they can, and it's not calming the storm, and the boat is still going crazy. And so during all of this, Jonah is just hanging out below deck and just like not worrying and stuff like that. So during all this chaos, the captain goes below deck to talk to Jonah, and he's like asking him why Jonah was so calm during all of this, that there's a crazy storm going on in the boat, and the boat was going back and forth. And so Jonah was remaining calm, and he told them that he disobeyed his God, and he knew that's why this storm was happening. And so he said that he knew how to fix it, and so all the sailors were telling him that they would agree to anything that he needed to do. And so Jonah told them that they needed to throw him overboard to calm the storm. And so they didn't want to do it. They were very reluctant, and they were freaking out again because of the storm, and they didn't know if that was going to cause it, and they didn't want to throw an innocent man overboard for no reason. And so Jonah finally got them to agree to throw him overboard, and so they did. And Jonah was in the water, and the men were freaking out, and then the storm calmed because Jonah was thrown in the water. And so God wouldn't just let Jonah die. So whenever Jonah was in the water, God provided a fish, or what we can assume would be a whale because of the size, to swallow Jonah. And so the big fish came and swallowed Jonah, and Jonah was in the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. So while Jonah was in this fish for 3 days and 3 nights, he started to pray to God. And so he was apologizing for being disobedient, and he didn't think he was worthy to live at this point. And so he was telling God, like, I'm so sorry. And he was kind of understanding if God didn't want him to get out of the fish. And so after he was done with his prayer, God told the fish to spit him out. And so the fish took him to dry land and spit Jonah out. So a little bit of background about the city of Nineveh. They weren't good people. They were very violent. They were kind of immoral. They would just do really bad things a lot. And that was kind of the background of Nineveh. And so that kind of explains why Jonah was a little bit reluctant. He didn't think that they deserved to be forgiven by God. So Jonah was kind of putting his opinion into it, and that's why he's kind of reluctant to go. So he goes to Nineveh, and God told him to say that 40 more days in Nineveh will be overturned. The Ninevites believed God, and they declared a fast, and all of them, for the greatest to the least, put on sackcloth. So that kind of says that he told them that it was pretty much a threat from God, saying, if you don't fix your ways in 40 days, I'm going to kind of take over, and things are going to change. But despite what Jonah thought was going to happen, they changed their ways immediately. They took off all their royal robes, and they made themselves all look the same by putting on sackcloth, which is actually kind of like a potato sack. So everyone was kind of wearing the same thing. And the king declared for a fast. So they would give up all their violent ways, all their immoral activities that they do, everything. So they were going to be like followers of God, and they were going to believe in God and kind of do everything that God asked them to do. And so God saw this happen, and he was watching it, and so he decided to lift that threat of destruction. And he was like, okay, like, you guys are going to be following me, so I'm going to appreciate that, and you are going to live the way that I tell you to. So God tells Jonah again to go to Nineveh, and this time Jonah listens to him, and he goes to Nineveh. So Jonah was really upset about God's decision to forgive the Ninevites, because again, the Ninevites were his greatest enemies, and he did not want to see them succeed. And so when he was outside of the city, he built a shelter for him to stay in, and God provided him a plant that went over his shelter to provide shade for him in the sunlight. Well, that night, God also provided a worm to eat up that plant, and so the plant died. And so the next morning, Jonah woke up, and he had no more shade, and so he was really mad at God for that. He was really upset, and God told him, what right do you have to be upset with this? And Jonah was like, well, I do. You took away my shade. And God said, well, you didn't tend for the plant, you didn't grow the plant, it's not yours to take care of, so why are you upset? And so Jonah kind of like took back a step from that, and so at the end, God said, just as he brought up the Ninevites, he brought up the plant, and it's his decision and his job to bring it down or bring it back up whenever he decides, and it's his job to do that. So kind of like the summary with this whole story, God kind of used the vine not to torture Jonah without giving him shade. He kind of used it as a lesson that, like as a metaphor to compare the plant with the Ninevites, and that since he didn't take care of the Ninevites, he wasn't the one that brought the city up. That it was actually God that did that, and so it's God's job to take care of them, to forgive them, and make that decision of destruction or not. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that video. We're going to try and do this weekly, so make sure to check in, subscribe. We also have the sermons, and we have a couple child messages. We have some other fun videos coming on to YouTube. So subscribe to YouTube, and then make sure you check all of our social media and our website for any updates on anything. We will see you guys, and see you soon.